Is this truly the one VR stock to rule them all, or should we cast it into the fire of Mount Doom? Let's talk about it. This is the OneStock by WieldVR, and what I'm holding here is one of the 20 pre-production models that have been sent out to folks to review. And this video is made in partnership with WieldVR, and I appreciate them for sponsoring it. They also did something that I love, which is not tell me how to go about my review. All of this is honest. All they did was send me this and tell me to give you my opinion on it. But one thing I do want to mention that they told me is that because this is a pre-production model, the version that actually will get sent out to folks is going to be slightly different because it's going to have some tweaks and improvement that have happened since these were made. Right now, there is also no options to outright buy the OneStock. The only way you can get it is by using an exclusive code that they are giving to content creators for the time being, and my code is bar75. So if you are interested in this after the review, that is the code you'll need to plug into the website to be able to pick one up. I've used this stock now for quite a few of my live streams just to get a feel for it, and I wanted to give you some of my initial impressions since using it for a bit before we hop into a game and show you some more. So if you take a close look here, this is not your run-of-the-mill 3D printed VR gun stock. It has very high quality parts, and I don't foresee anything breaking or snapping on this anytime soon. This is also the most adjustable VR gun stock I have ever used. And a big selling point that they have for it is that it's entirely toolless. Any adjustments you need to make on this, you can do without any tools. You can slide the butt stock to any position you want just by pinching and sliding the back piece here. You can extend the butt stock by pushing the button in here or shorten it. You can change the distance of the mounting points depending on how far or close you like your hands to be. And they also have this quick adjustment so that you can use pump shotguns or quickly adjust from SMGs to rifles to then sniper rifles and pretty much anything you want. It's so adjustable that I don't think that you will find a game or a type of gun in the game that it won't work with. Even the sling that's included here is very easily and quickly adjustable. You can just pull on the inner part and then take this loop and pull up on it if you want to make it tighter, or you do the opposite of that if you want to make it bigger. And here's the secret adjustment that they have that I haven't seen with any other VR stock. You can actually turn at the wrist. And that can play a huge role in terms of comfort. Sometimes if you're using a rifle and you have your hand farther out, it's nicer to have it turned at an angle versus straight up and down. Now let's talk about the Quest controllers. They do have versions of the stock that work with the index knuckle controllers. They have PSVR 2, Rift, any pretty much popular VR headset that you can think of. But the one I have here is specific for Quest, so that is what I'm going to show you. The interesting thing about these mounts is that there's nothing to attach to your controllers, which is pretty slick because then there's really nothing that gets in the way when you're not using the stock and you have to move your controllers around to reload, to use a pistol, things like that. They do fit very particularly into these mounts. You have to make sure it slaps in there right because there is a hole here that makes sure that your sensor can still be seen so you don't run into tracking issues. It did take me a couple play sessions to really start getting a feel for it. The one thing I really felt was missing was my knuckle straps, because I did find out that if I did put on my Kiwi Design aftermarket knuckle straps, it would make the controller too big and it wouldn't work well in the mounts here. But the good news is I was trolling their Discord earlier and it looks like they already have an option now that is compatible with these straps, which I gotta get my hands on because I have a really hard time playing without knuckle straps these days. As a longtime VR stock user, let me tell you where this seems to perform really well. I've always found sniping in VR to be somewhat difficult with certain gun stocks, especially if they don't really allow you to take your hand off very quickly while still having a good hold with your non-dominant hand. But with this stock, it actually was incredibly easy. I found the most benefit from being able to snipe and do it easily and steadily while keeping the stock up so that I can continue to see through the scope and being able to quickly reload. All of those things are important if you want to do well sniping in VR. And obviously they have this option so that you can use pump shotguns without taking your hands off at all. And just when using SMGs and rifles, it does feel very comfortable. I do think I would like it more with the knuckle straps. I think that would make a big difference for me because sometimes I just don't feel like I have a good enough grip on my controllers when I'm using it. Another thing I found that was really interesting about this stock was the PSVR 2 mounts for it actually are top mounted. So it goes this way, which in a lot of cases is my preferred way for a gun stock. I think stocks that mount to the top of the controllers tend to just feel more immersive. It feels a little bit more like you're actually holding a rifle, and I've just always felt really good whenever I've used a top mounted stock. I'm probably gonna try to get my hands on the PSVR 2 mount to try that out, but I think it would be really interesting for them to try to make similar mounts that work with Quest controllers, but so that you can have it top mounted like this. Having the option to be able to flip to whether it's top mounted or bottom mounted would really kind of enhance the usability of this for me, just because it follows that OneStock theme and just really gives you a lot of options. All right, here we are in Vail, which I think is an objectively great game for testing out a gun stock or just kind of testing out your skills in general in VR. They have an aim trainer over here that we could try out once we get adjusted, and we can choose through all of their weapons here. So let's try a few things out and see how well we can get the OneStock to be adjusted for Vail. I'm going to start with the settings. So as a kind of a quick tip, in most games, right, that are at least competitive shooters, you are going to have options for virtual stocks. Virtual stock is always an option that's great to have on without a stock, but sometimes it's also better to have it on with a stock as well, which seems kind of weird, right? Because normally you think one or the other, but in a lot of cases I found that it's super nice to have virtual stock on while using the gun stock, because sometimes it just feels smoother. A lot of games the gun just kind of works a little bit better that way. But we're going to start with the stock off for Vail, because I cannot remember how I typically like it for this. So let's start with stock off and see how we're looking. So I do initially start off with any stock, making sure I can just be comfortable with it. I actually have it set up kind of with the distance I like from my hands. So I already have the stock set up to be comfortable for me. One thing I like to do with any stock that I have is I make sure that I can just hold it comfortably. And right here, I'm making sure that it's touching my cheek, so I have a good contact point there. It's pushed into my shoulder. I'm able to pull in comfortably, and my hands feel good. This is kind of a great starting point to be at for any game when you are testing out a gun stock. We do have a gun with a sight here. One thing I also recommend is make sure you test out guns with and without sights, because you want to make sure things work with iron sights as well as with any other sight or scope that it has. And honestly, without virtual stock on, with type A on, this was off center. It was a little too... the gun was a little too high in my vision, but here it's looking pretty good actually already, so that's good. So let's see how it works with these iron sights on this M4 here. All right. Let's try something with a bigger scope on it. All right, so one of the areas where this stock does shine is with sniping. I found that in Contractor Showdown and some other games. Vail also has these really beautiful scopes. Another reason I like testing things out in this game. It's always important to be able to move quickly with a stock, and I've always found it with a lot of them kind of difficult to do with sniper rifles, especially when it comes to having to action it like this. So a lot of times what you'll see people doing, if they're not used to sniping in VR or just kind of shooting this kind of stuff in general, is they'll turn the gun to action it like this, which will not work well. It's just slow. So what you want to do is keep your non-primary hand holding the weapon, let go with this hand, charge it, and keep going. And then this way you can actually keep the scope kind of trained on as much as possible to your target, and then you just grab it again and you shoot. And if you keep practicing like that with whichever weapon you want to get good with, I guarantee you will perform quite a bit better. Let's try out a pump action shotgun here, because the stock, like I mentioned before, if you keep the front part opened, you can move it pretty fluently here, and that's supposed to work out pretty well for shotguns. So let's load it up, just give it a go here. All right, that's pretty good. Let's see if I can try to go quick. You know, I mean, that's pretty dang good. I mean, it feels solid, right? You're not like fumbling to take your hand off and reattach it. So, I mean, I don't use shotguns a ton in VR games, but being able to just do that actually feels nice, and it's kind of immersive because that kind of feels how it feels to actually have to pump a shotgun. Let's try the aim trainer and see how this works. All right, and this is my first run with the WieldVR stock. Let me actually get the front kind of set how I like it. Make sure I'm good. That feels nice. All right. So. Oh. Oh. Still not as smooth as I want to be, but that's not too bad. That's not too bad. That's feeling pretty good. The OneStock in Vail, no virtual stock on. Feels great. I just had the Gunstock kind of pre-positioned to what is comfortable for me, making sure that I'm able to touch my cheek and my shoulder. And that is solid. I mean, the more you practice with it, the better you get. The OneStock truly is an incredible stock if you are looking for something that is completely adjustable and something that kind of has a high skill ceiling. I think this is the type of stock that can really grow with you. The more you use it, the more you understand how to adjust it, and just the better you're gonna get. It only took me a few play sessions before I felt really smooth with it. I was absolutely clapping people in Contractor Showdown, especially when it came to sniping, which is an area I think this stock really excels in. It works great with rifles and everything, but things like sniping and using shotguns just feel a lot better with it compared to some of the other gun stocks I've used. And remember, this is a pre-production model that I have, so those of you that choose to buy it will get a much more improved version of the stock that I have. This stock is definitely going to be in my main rotation of stocks that I grab off my wall here behind me before I go live, and you can use my exclusive code BAR75 to pick one up from their website. You can go to jbarvr.com or catch the link in the description. And remember, you can always catch me live Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays around 8 p.m. Central Time. I go live on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. I always love seeing new folks come in. Cheers, and we'll see you in the next one.